Yeah, I had the safety meeting the other week, and it's to me, it's very easy. I've had enough experiences in my career where, safety is it's a mindset, it's a belief, and it's also our responsibility, right? We owe it to our families, we owe it to our coworkers' families. And I think,
Sure.
one of the things I love about my situation now is I work at a small company. So the safety is we can talk about it as a family, not as kind of a top down initiative. So, and I think that transition happened even at the bigger companies that I worked at. They started really talking about safety as a it's the reason is we want to make sure that you get home to your family every day. And I think that resonates with people a little bit more that than do it or else you're going to get sent home for for the rest of the day, right?
Hello, and welcome to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group. I am your host, Matt Allred. In this podcast, we talk to the people whose lives and careers are dedicated to the vertical transportation industry to inform and share lessons learned, building upon the foundation of those who have gone before to inspire the next generation of elevator careers. Today, our guest is Chuck Tyler, Director of Operations and Business Development with Phoenix Modular Elevator. Chuck started his career in the field at age 18, and with a family history in the trade, every meal he has ever eaten has been provided by the elevator industry. Chuck loves what he does, and he's excited to be growing in a new niche of the industry. This is part one. Chuck, welcome to the show.
Matt, thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'm excited. I always enjoy talking to you, and I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better today. So appreciate you being here. And let's just start from the beginning, Chuck. How did you get involved in the elevator industry?
So I think I shared with you earlier in a conversation. Every meal I've ever eaten came from this industry. So my pops came home from Vietnam and was lucky enough to fall into the elevator as a part-time job until something better came along, and he retired from the industry some 50 years later.
Wow.
A steward adjuster for Dover and Thyssen, and got me and uncles and nephews and my daughter and a lot of us in the trade. So I kind of have always wanted to be an elevator man. When I was a kid, my heroes were all my dad's buddies who seemed to could do anything. They were elevator guys. So when I was 11 years old, my dad decided he was going to build a log cabin and do it himself, buy a kit. And so every weekend it was him and a bunch of elevator guys from all over Florida. They would come over and help him build that house. And so I was exposed to the square within an eighth of an inch and plumb within a gnat's butt from the very beginning. So I kind of always wanted to be in the elevator business, and just naturally went into it when I got out of high school.
And never even thought of anything else, it sounds like.
No, there was never any other option. It's what I kind of was destined to be, I think. Yeah.
That's cool. So when you got out of high school, did you immediately join the union, or what role did you find yourself in?
So my dad made me get a job working, to prove myself before he would let me get into the industry. So I had to go work in a construction job as a laborer for 6 months for a buddy of his, prove I could show up every day in that. And then he brought me in. My dad at the time was a superintendent for Arizona Elevator out in Phoenix, and he hired me on. And I got my opportunity to start in the industry, in the field. I worked there got my 6 months in, and so easier not to work for your dad. I transferred over to Otis and worked for a gentleman by the name of Dick Anger, and that was the start of my career there, working on the high-rise buildings in Phoenix.
Yeah. So was it everything you hoped it would be? As like an 11-year-old going, "Hey, this is what I want to be," or did you kind of have this realization or wake up that, "Oh my gosh, man, maybe I should have been an astronaut after all,"
Well, I never considered an astronaut, but I think it was everything. Some of the things that were frustrating, right? Back when I got in, it was, you had a lot of old school mechanics, and, the helpers only got to see what they let you see. And so the beginning, I worked on a couple big jobs, and, that was quite frustrating. Didn't quite understand it, but so as my career moved along, I tried not to be one of those guys. And, but yeah, it was always what I expected. I've been given so many opportunities. Again, I've started out working in the field with my hands, with my tools. Um, my family grew, and we decided that we wanted to move, and we were able to reach out and find an opportunity within the elevator industry with Dover Elevator. They helped move us, and we moved to a different place, and started started our family growing that way, and it was really a good situation. And then a few years later, I got an opportunity to go into the office as a superintendent, a small, just a really small operation, and I really just loved that. I loved the opportunity to do the setup and support, and take the little bit of knowledge that I'd gained over the 6 or 7 years I worked in the field, and get the job set up right for the mechanics that were going to go do them. And I found a lot of passion for that. So being a superintendent was so much fun, and a great opportunity, and I was able to do that for a few years. So
That's awesome. That's how long did you actually spend in the field before moving to the office?
about 6.5 years I worked with the tools. Like I said, I started in Phoenix, and we moved to Jackson, Mississippi. So
Wow.
my first 4 years, I worked as a helper for some really great mechanics on high rise work. And so that was my goal, was to be a foreman on high rise. Well, moved to Jackson, Mississippi, and there wasn't a lot of high rises. There was
Sure.
just a lot of hydros, a lot of traveling city to city. And so that kind of gave me okay, if I'm not going to be able to run big work, well, I can run a small office, and that'd be like running a big job. So that's kind of, how I worked my way into the office.
Looking back, who were some of the, I mean, you mentioned a name or two. What, some of the biggest mentors for you that you felt like really pulled you along or maybe believed in you, maybe even more than you believed in yourself at the time. Anybody like that?
So my number one hero in life is my dad. He's no longer with us, but some kids worship Michael Jordan. I worshiped my pops.
Sure.
Um, so he was my number one. And I always worked with my dad, even when I was in the field. I worked with him as his helper, or he would come and adjust behind me. So the pressure of having your dad follow
Oh, I can't
behind you, and
imagine.
judge your work, and then have that discussion at the dinner table after work too, right? So he was my number one. But so many people, I mean, early on in my career, there's a guy by the name of Greg Rustad, who is just retired out in Las Vegas. He's been in the industry forever. And Jim Allen, Stan Snook, Phil Gable. I mean, there's so many people early on that gave me opportunities. Bob Doyen. And then I mentioned mentioned Richard from Otis. He was the superintendent there, and he was just such a great guy. Came to my wedding, and encouraged me to, next time I missed I was late, I was going to have to pay the price for it, now that I was a grown up married man. So and then I moved to Jackson, Mississippi, and I got to work with Robert Mason, and he was a legend in the old Dover organization. So that was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What were some of the early lessons that you felt like really helped you maybe focus more or just kind of understand that, hey, this is what's critical here? Anything like that? That
Well, again, I think early on when I was a kid, I learned that close wasn't close enough. The elevator guys always say close is only it's only good in horseshoes and hand grenades, right? Elevator business is exact. So I came into the industry with that. I think what really the eye opening was, when safety started to become a real play. I got in the field in like 88, 80, 80, 88 area. And it was shortly after that when, Otis and the majors really started to push safety and, think differently. And then that transition over time, over the next 10, 15, 20 years, that I think that was probably one of the biggest things I could point to, that I would say, I've seen a change in the industry. I don't know, that was the question, but
so it's yeah. I
um,
mean, some of the stories I've heard from the old, I guess people who've been there longer is yeah, safety wasn't maybe prized and valued as much as I would almost say heroics from some of the stories I've heard of just some crazy stuff that went on.
Heroics and lack of fear there, lack of fear, definitely. That's an elevator guy gets used to heights, right? You work in them all the time. So I think it becomes a little less causes less anxiety when you're used to something. So I remember we had a job once that the elevators were built. The shanty was on this like P2, and the guys would come in at the lobby and slide down the ropes to the car top and then jump out onto the floor where the shanty was at. So again, some crazy things. But I just think from the biggest lesson I learned early on, I would work with some young mechanics, and it was start of the day, hurry up and get to your work spot and start working, and then realize, oh, we forgot this tool or we forgot that part. And then I got an opportunity to work with one of my dad's best buddies, Jim Cochran. And he would take 15 or 20 minutes in the shanty in the morning, getting everything together, making a plan, making sure he knew exactly what we were going to accomplish that day. We would get all of our tools together, and then we would walk our way to the machine room. But when we got there, we never had to leave again. So I guess the biggest lesson I learned was, plan your work and work your plan. Right.
That's awesome. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's super valuable, right? Because your time is, you can't get it back. And so if you're walking back
Yeah.
and forth to your truck or wherever you got to go, and you don't have your stuff together, you've just wasted half the day because of a lack of a plan.
Right. So that's kind of, I guess, maybe where I started to really think about efficiency. And then once I got into the office, I mentioned I was in Jackson and then moved to Birmingham, Alabama, large hydro markets. And I had some great mechanics. I mean, some amazing guys that were fantastic. And our leadership at the time were really looking for, installation processes. And we really pushed to, improve the product to help with the installation times and so on. So, that efficiency kind of carried through, from my early days, my time in the field and then into the office. So, always looking at, how you can be most effective, most efficient.
Yeah. Let's talk for just a minute. You mentioned kind of the shift to safety, that safety mentality. And I'm curious what kind of reception. I mean, I'm assuming there was some pushback, right? Some of these guys who kind of prided themselves on being fearless is like, safety? That's stupid. We don't need that.
I would definitely say that early on in the transition from the old world to the new world, if you will, safety was something that, it was a struggle. I had a friend of mine, Gary Livengood, was the safety guy, came out of the field, was a superintendent, then went into safety. And, I remember having many conversations with him when he would come in town and do safety audits and so on and so forth. I think the transition has been, at first it was the company was pushing it, you got to do things a certain way because they felt it was safer, but as time moved on, I think the guys took ownership of it
Sure.
and really and really started to take it on. And you notice it more with the younger guys. I use gloves as a prime example. A lot of the older guys, oh, I can't put this together with gloves on, but the young guys that never knew anything different, right?
Sure.
They never had a problem with it. Same with safety glasses. I remember early on, we asked the guys to wear safety glasses when they were doing things where they needed to wear safety glasses. Unfortunately, the guys still didn't wear the safety glasses when they needed to. So then the rule became with the big companies, you got to wear them all the time, right? So the pendulum swung too far, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's anytime in my experience, you're trying to change culture or drive new behaviors, or there's going to be some resistance. But that's definitely one of those areas where I think as people look back, it's like, yeah, I'm glad that we're taking safety serious, more than we used to. It's
I think safety now is we yeah, I had the safety meeting the other week, and to me, it's very easy. I've had enough experiences in my career where, safety it's a mindset, it's a belief, and it's also our responsibility, right? We owe it to our families, we owe it to our coworkers' families. And I think,
sure.
one of the things I love about my situation now is I work at a small company. So, the safety is we can talk about it as a family, not as, kind of a top down initiative. So and I think that transition happened even at the bigger companies that I worked at. They started really talking about, safety as it's the reason is we want to make sure that you get home to your family every day. And I think that resonates with people a little bit more, that, then do it or else you're going to get sent home for, for the rest of the day. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it is a dangerous occupation, right? And so I'm sure everybody probably knows somebody that they wish had been a little bit safer, and that hits
Right.
home, hits hard.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. I had a situation. We had a right after I left Charlotte, North Carolina, my father was still there. A lot of good friends of mine. We had a fatality on a project with a brand new young helper, and
Mm.
it was a horrendous situation. So the last thing you ever want is to have an accident or a fatality. So yeah.
Yep, yep. Understood. So as you look kind of at the future and maybe where we're at as an industry, um, what what advice would you give? I mean, if you were to kind of speak to the entire industry, what would you say?
So I would say my biggest advice, I think, I've been around for a few minutes now, and my biggest advice would be, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, find something else to do. This industry is plenty big enough. There's so many different avenues that you can follow. Um, and I mentioned this to you before, I think in one of our conversations. I kind of worked my way up into a position of, I was a vice president of a department for the New York region. And it wasn't, I lost my passion because I won't say I lost my passion. I lost the fun of what I did. I loved going out and working with the customers and being a part of the team with the guys in the field and all that stuff. So sometimes I think that, you got to find your lane and stay with it. The big companies, if you work hard and you're successful, they love to give you another opportunity, but those opportunities aren't always what they're made out to be, right?
Sure.
Part of being able to really be successful is develop yourself in a market and develop contacts. And so if you're constantly moving every time the company needs you to, that can negatively affect your personal career. So my advice to people is, if you don't feel good with something, or you don't feel like it's taking you to a place that feels good to you, find somewhere else. There's so many awesome opportunities within the elevator industry. It's not like you have to change industries. You just have to look for another opportunity within the same industry,
Sure. Or even create your own. It's
or create your own.
fairly
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
fairly common that somebody will be climbing a corporate ladder, only realize the ladder's on the wrong wall, right? And that's not what I wanted. Or to your point, I'm so far away from the field, which is what I love. I need to do something where I can actually be back, closer, or kind of experience the thrill of being in that space. Because once you get into some of those jobs, you just kind of remove from what you love.
Well, one of my passions is efficiency, looking at things and seeing how you can do it more quicker, faster, more effectively, better, the whole nine yards. So when you get to a level where you're no longer running the day to day, you're just running people, you lose that ability to feed yourself. So I
Sure.
think that's the advice I would give is, just find something you really like, and sometimes it's best just to develop yourself within that instead of trying to take the next step.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, last question I'll ask you is, if you were talking to somebody who's maybe they're brand new, versus somebody who's maybe been in here and they've already climbed the wrong ladder and kind of figured out where they need to be. Maybe somebody who's brand new to the industry, what would you say to them?
I would tell them that, brand new to the industry, I would tell them to keep their mouth closed and their ears open and listen and learn. There's so many people within this industry that are willing to share their wealth of knowledge. Um, all you've got to do is listen. You don't have to have all the answers. Just go listen and build your network. participate in industry events, the NAEC, you know, your local safety association, elevator safety association, whatever it is, network, get to know people outside of your own company. Don't think that just because your company is the one you work for, they're the only good ones. Network outside. They're not the enemy. They're just like us. So yeah, that would be it.
Awesome. Awesome. So Chuck, thank you for taking this time. In our next section or next episode, if you will, we're gonna look a little bit closer at what you're doing right now with Phoenix Modular. So I'm excited to get into that, and I appreciate you being here
Looking
with me
forward
today.
to it. For sure, Matt. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group, a leader in elevator industry recruiting. Please visit our YouTube channel at Elevator Careers or check us out online at elevatorcareers.net. Please like and subscribe, and until next time, stay safe.